The Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
Welcome to the best show this side of the Sahara, the Great Debaters Contest. This week we are in Machakos County, aka Little Dubai, to bring you the very best of debate. I am your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyimbok. Our motion today is Africa has more opportunity for economic growth and development than any other continent. Is that true? Well, we have two teams on stage ready to tackle this motion, Kisau girls and Mwaani girls. Who will be the victor?
The first proposer, you have 3 minutes to start us off.
I'm Christine Chege, Kisau girls, and I'm here to strongly propose the motion that says Africa has more opportunity for economic development than any other continent. To start off, Africa has benefited from the surge in commodity prices over the past decade. Oil rose from less than $20 a barrel in 1999 to more than $145 a barrel in 2008. That is a great economic growth. Prices for minerals, grains, and other raw materials also soared on rising global demand in the past few years. Also, Africa has global economic ties. Projections for demand for many hard minerals show an increase by 25%, twice the pace in the 1990s. Africa also has a demand for commodities in the world's emerging economies, particularly in Asia and in the Middle East. Thirdly, Africa is gaining increased access to international capital. The annual flow of direct investment into Africa increased from $9 billion in 2000 to $62 billion in 2008, relative to gross domestic product, almost as large as the inflow in China. Again, the rise of African urban consumer, that includes the 1980. In 1980, just 28% of Africans lived in the cities. Right now, 40% of the whole population live there, roughly comparable to China's and larger than India's. This population is aimed to rise to 50% in 2030. Also, Africa has many pre-transition economies, including DRC, Ethiopia, and Mali. This is strengthening the basic economies in the pre-transition economies. Thank you.
Opposers, you have 3 minutes for your opening statements.
Hello, beautiful Africans. My name is Esther Mudhoni from Mwaani Girls High School, here to strongly oppose the motion that says Africa has more opportunity for economic development than any other continent. Seriously, what is an opportunity? This is the right time when something can be done better. And of course, all the factors should be to its advantage. Sadly, Africans, we are very disadvantaged. And I'll tell you why. First, insecurity and terrorism. This is a global problem. We all know that. And Africa is not spared. But our way of facing this problem is costing us a fortune. Take a good example of what Al-Shabaab is doing to our country, Kenya. Seriously. And also what Boko Haram is doing to our beautiful Nigeria. Investors are scared away. I mean, seriously, who would waste their time to come here for some few coins and dollars to risk her life? No one. Tourists too, they are scared to come over to our country because no one is ready to come and watch some beasts and risk her life. So that's a great disadvantage. Secondly, exploitation by the Western countries. We all brag that we have resources and so on and so forth. I agree. But have you ever sat down and thought, who is really benefiting from these resources? I'll take a good example of gold in South Africa. That is a good mineral, very precious to us African. We are blessed indeed. But who is mining it? The British Mining Company. They are creating job opportunities for their people. The money is going to British, not us. We just sit back and say, oh wow, Africa, we have resources, but is it really benefiting us? No. On the third point, over-dependency to the other nations. Africa, we cannot stand on our own. We have to depend on loans and money from the World Bank. We have debts and debts yearly, and yet we're still dragging behind because we cannot develop. We have to depend on them. And it is not that all that money we get is going to help us because the development will need a lot of money. That is a lot of debts. So we are still so much behind. Thank you.
Rebuttals, beginning with the proposers. You have 3 minutes.
Carol Kambua, Kisau Girls. I want to present that Africa has more opportunity in economic development than any other continent. Africa has many minerals. Many of the minerals in Africa, like gold mining in South Africa, diamond mining in South Africa and Tanzania, copper mining in Uganda. These improve, when they are well exploited, they improve the economy of Africa. The other point is on sport and games. Most of the African countries provide the best athletes and sportsmen. This will improve the economy of Africa as a continent. The other point is on the tourism sector. The tourism sector is supported by the presence of sites like the mountains, like Kilimanjaro, the sandy beaches along the coast of Africa, and we have the white rhino, which is extinct, only found in Africa. Then we have the climate. The climate in Africa is favorable, that provides the growth of subsistence crops such as cash crops that are coffee, pyrethrum in Kenya and in some of the African countries. Thank you.
Opposition, time for your cross-examination. You have 3 minutes.
I'm Nancy Kaunda from Mwaani Girls High School, and I'm here to oppose the motion that says Africa has more opportunities for economic developments than any other continent. On to my first point, diseases. Africa suffers from diseases. Example, we have HIV/AIDS, Ebola, cancer, malaria, cholera, and many others. And we see that due to this is going to affect the human resource, and it's also going to drain the continent's resources. We also see that many Africans tend to seek treatments from the outside continent, and thus when they pay up for the treatment that they seek from the other continents, they are going to boost their economic developments and their health sectors, and thus it's going to reduce our economic developments. On to my next point, poverty. A large percentage of African population is poor, and thus leads to a low purchasing power and low standards of living. And due to this, there is limited market and slow growth for our economy. On my third point, brain drain. Africa has a lot of brilliant people, a lot of educated people, and we see that the same educated and brilliant people are taken by the other countries in the other continents. An example, Europe, America, Asia. They take our people and provide employments for them, and when they work for them, when they get paid, their money leads to their economic development. And thus, Africa, we are going to remain with the unskilled personnel, and we're going to remain with the people who are not well trained in the different sectors that are there. And so the African countries are forced to hire expatriates from the other continents to come and work for us. And this is going to be very expensive because we're going to have to pay them. And also, it's going to lead to a drain in Africa's margin of resources. Thank you.
Empieza ya pendeza, empieza ya elimisha, empieza ya faridi, empieza inaweka maisha kuwa shwari tu.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap, or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
The proposers have been asked if Africa does indeed have a conducive climate for cash crops, how come we're always doing research to find drought-resistant crops? And the opposers have been challenged to to give us more points and stronger points on what really undermines the development of Africa as a continent. Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
Grace Chege from Kisau Girls. I'd like to answer the question that has been posted to us. The drought-resistant crops are there, but compared to other continents, Africa is the one that has the most favorable climate. The drought-resistant crops are there just to improve the sector in the agricultural to improve the agricultural sector in our African community. I know most of you would like to say that there are a lot of debts in Africa, that's why that we don't have development also. But in the past 10 years in Africa, it has surpassed that East Asia. That data suggests that part of our continent that is experiencing a very fast growth in development. And even from the World Bank, they have offered relief for the heavily debted countries, continents, which is the burden of debt is being lowered, and that's it. Even in exports, we have very ready markets like in China, Asia. We have very ready markets for our crops. The drought-resistant crops are there to assist us in the agricultural sector so that what they want us to offer, we are able to offer it. Also, during Obama's visit in July 2013, statistics says that he has announced a US $1 billion of $7 billion plan to further development of infrastructure and work out intensity with African designed to boost the trade in the continent and grow economically. Who doesn't see that Africa is a great continent? I would like to put a point of patriotism. I can say that my opposers here, they are not patriotic. They don't love their country, their continent, and that's why they are opposing the motion that we have more power and more opportunity for developing our continent than the others. They might have well-educated people, they might have infrastructure, but we have resources. We do have resources. We have gold, we have diamond, we have the trona and the soda ash. Who doesn't see that Africa is rich? Who doesn't see that? Thank you.
Opposition, time to answer the questions. You have 3 minutes.
I'm Nancy Mutanu from Mwaani Girls, and I would like to answer the question. Your question is very straight to the point, but we know in Africa, so many youths are affected by the diseases, and the youths are the ones who have the most job opportunities, who can get the most job opportunities. And also, we lack good medical facilities to eradicate the diseases. I would love to point out about political instability. We know in many African countries, they are unable to manage their governments effectively. And also this does not attract investors. We know that political instability is the act of parties in a country to collide or fight against each other when we ourselves are fighting each other. How are we going to attract investors from outside our country or from outside the continent? And how are we going to attract also the tourists from outside the continent? My second point is about corruption. Oh my, corruption. Corruption is eating up African continent. We know that Africa has a wide range of corruption. In corruption, it has led to mismanagement of economies. Let's take an example. We all crave for better transport facilities, health facilities, and how are we going to get them if the funds are given to the leaders, and the leaders, instead of using the funds to create roads, build up facilities? What if they're given those funds and they use the funds for their own beneficials? How are we really going to develop the economy of Africa? On to my third point, it's about environmental degradation. We know environment is everything that surrounds us. And in environment, we can use the environment to attract tourists. But instead, we Africans, we pollute the environment. We pollute water from the lakes, water from the rivers. And also, we also cause desertification. You can imagine how we can use those trees to attract tourists. We can imagine how we can use those trees to make pulp, which can be used to make papers, and you can export to other continents so that you can earn foreign exchange. Africa, if this continues, we are heading nowhere. I would love to tell my partners around here, cross over and let's sail on the same boat
of opposing. Thank you.
Closing submissions, beginning with the proposers. You have a minute.
I would like to oppose my member. She's just said of the environment degradation. The environment degradation is out of the exploitation of the minerals that are going to enhance the development of our country. Purposely, the gold, the mines that are mined there, they usually give us the exporting materials so that you can get to higher standards. Anyway, I like my members, with all due respect, come, bow down, and cross to the other side to help us and be patriotic to our Africa. Africa is a very good continent. Even judges, my fellow students, you can see that, can't you? Oh yes, you can. We are very proud to say that Africa has all it takes to be in, it has all it takes to develop. Thank you.
Opposers, you have a minute for your final submission.
I would like to say that I am patriotic enough not to let you Africans sleep in a bed of lies saying that we have an opportunity. We do not stand a chance, and that is a fact. First, let us work and eradicate the problems that are dragging us behind, the problems that are making us not to say that we stand an opportunity. So, my fellow speakers, I beg that you may cross and sit with us. I'll share a seat because I love Africa.
Mwaani girls. Esther, you started the team very well as a first speaker and you came out very strong. And for that, we commend your style, your mastery of topic and language, and also your passion. I loved the angle of talking about the overdependence on other countries that may not necessarily give Africa a better hand. So that was quite good as a first speaker, even when it came to wind up. It was a twist for you to start saying that Africa doesn't stand a chance, then by ending it by saying that you really love Africa. Nancy, no cross-examination. You were quite strong when you came. You picked up very well as a second speaker, but your role is to cross-examine. It tells us that you're listening to the other team. So that was not a sin, and so that really did not give you the match points that you deserved. Nancy, you did well as a third speaker. You came across and gave out your points. And for me, all across, that was quite fair teamwork.
Kisau girls, I think Christine, you began us off very well. Good use of statistics and data. But again, you had too much of that. Instead of dwelling, picking one point out of it and expounding on it. So you give us too much data, and that also is likely to lose the audience. And then you did not use your time properly. You had a minute to go by the time you walked off the stage. I think, Carol, we've talked about, your stage fright, and, there are mechanisms about what to do with your hands, for example, when you do not know what to do with them. So that is something that we can talk about after this. Grace Chege, you're the strongest of the three, but you need to work on your grammar and your language and your style of presentation. But overall, fair performance.
There is no debate if there is no clash. Are we together? A debate is like a fight. Can you imagine two people fighting? One is facing north, the other is facing south. Will you fight? No, you won't. So ensure that you clash with the ideas. Where every idea they raise, try to disagree. A debater should be somebody different from what others may do along the streets. Of course, we find people sitting down in groups condemning Africa as a continent. But you see, as a debater, if you want to condemn or you want to offer a different view, you must have facts. What separates debate, speech, from any other form of speech is facts. And I said, and I'll say again, debate is meant to promote two important skills. One, speaking skills. Two, research skills. A debater is a person who speaks from facts. So the team is good, but we need more research. And when you do your research, you may not present everything that you've researched on. Just take a few representation of countries that have been affected, and the audience will believe you. Otherwise, it was a fair debate.
Kisau girls, the judges saw it fit to award you 58.1%. Please give them a round of applause. Mwaani girls, the judges awarded you 70%. Therefore, Mwaani girls are our winners for the debate.
When it's all said and done, the biggest room there is that for improvement. We congratulate both teams. From all of us here at the Great Debaters Contest, thank you for watching and we'll see you next time. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.